we came to Australia, it is a perfect place to live for groups like us. We have every single chance to actually revive our identity again. It is a huge responsibility.
Hi everyone, it's such a pleasure to bring you down back to Melbourne, Australia with me, your host for episode 83, Cynthia. So it might have been a little while since you heard from Australia, but that's only because we are just coming out of hibernation over winter. Spring is now here, meaning rebirth and regeneration, and that's the story of this episode's guest, Kinder Haroun. So I came across Kinder when she won my city's award for Resident of the Month, which is no small feat. While we hadn't crossed paths, Kinder's name kept appearing again and again in relation to a number of Assyrian-related activities and initiatives. Mind you, we're now a proud population of more than 13,000 Assyrians here in Melbourne, so I thought it was no coincidence that Kinder's name kept popping up again and again. I knew I just had to find out what this young Assyrian was achieving and what motivated her. I quickly found out that Kinder is a volunteer superstar, and without a doubt, an up-and-coming leader of the Assyrian community. In between all of Kinder's volunteer commitments, work, and study, I finally had a chance to sit down and talk with her. So our conversation got pretty emotional, and to be honest, it's the first time I've had to really try and hold back the tears. A lot of that has to do with part of Kinder's story around coming to Australia only 3 years ago as a result of the Syrian war. Before Kinder completely left Syria, she cut her university studies short and returned to her war-torn city to volunteer with the Assyrian Foundation. Through the foundation, she worked and supported women and children who had fled ISIS. But this is only just a part of her story. Since coming to Australia, Kinder has continued to kick goals, delivering exciting new initiatives as part of her role on the board of one of Melbourne's Assyrian associations, representing the Assyrian community to government on numerous occasions, and having the chance to meet Prince Harry while he was on tour in Australia. That's right. Kinder's story demonstrates sheer determination and strength, and she serves as an inspiring voice for our younger Assyrians. While this episode was recorded before the attacks in northern Syria took place, it is sadly a dark reminder of what Assyrians living in that part of the world have faced and continue to face. Our thoughts are with all of those affected. Support for this week's episode of the Assyrian podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalogerakos and the injury lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that has been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakos. Tony has been recognised as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or 847-982-9516. And now, here's Kinder Haroun. Kinder, thanks for joining me on the Assyrian podcast. So nice to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It's a pleasure to be with you and part of the Assyrian podcast program. The program itself, it's really amazing. It's I thank you and all the team for creating the program. It is helping us as Assyrians to bridge some of the distance and the gap we had. Now so many of our community members living in different countries, so it's great to hear their inspirational and successful stories. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure we're going to hear a bit more of an inspirational story today, which is... So Kinder, I want to start off, when did you end up coming to Australia? And maybe perhaps talk a bit about where you grew up and your upbringing.
So I came to Australia, actually I've been now quite a while here, so 3 years and 6 months.
You're new.
Yeah, to me it feels like it's been a long time. And so in 2016 I arrived with my parents and 2 sisters. So we were lucky enough actually to be among a few Assyrian families who didn't have to stay longer in Syria, fleeing the Syrian war and arriving safely to Australia. So we were really lucky to be able to, in a period of like 3 months, to get the humanitarian visa. And
so were you a part of that intake that the Australian government did of the 15,000?
Yeah, 12,000 I think in 2016. Yeah. So yeah, we were like the few families, or like Assyrian families, who didn't have to wait long, like 3 months. We get accepted and came, and after that, I think few months, over 50% of people from my city and the Syrian community in Hasaki, the northeastern part of Syria, were joining the program. And because most of them, they were in Lebanon for a few years, just were directly impacted by the war, so they fled to Lebanon. And
did your family flee to Lebanon as well, or they came straight from Syria?
Yeah, all of us were stayed in Lebanon for 3 months, and then came to Australia.
So I want to take a step back a little bit. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a bit about your upbringing there as a child? Where did you live?
So I was born in a village, one of the 35 plus Syrian villages in Khabur, which is in Hasaki city, the northeastern part of Syria. It is one of really great memories I have there. I was born to an Assyrian family, and there is so much many special things about the village itself. And I now, of course, the village was impacted greatly about the war, of the war in Syria, but it didn't that make me feel how special it was, because sometimes so many people would tell you, okay, we didn't feel how special something was to us till we lost it. Mm. Actually, to me, from the start, since I was young, the village gave us so much of and shaped who we are today. It was very special for me to be born there. We had I had pretty adventurous and fun childhood, very busy as well. So I had school all year, and then in summer we didn't even stop. We had something called the St. Hermes Assyrian School. St. Pythior Assyrian School. So that was that go for 3 months, where the Assyrian church there with the Assyrian Democratic Party organized something called the Assyrian graduation ceremony, and also the Assyrian language school week, when I learned how to read and write in Assyrian, and also perform some of the my culture dance, and also created what's called the Assyrian Young People's Theatre, where we present some monodramas or dramas about the village's life and the Syrian community in Khabur. And it was attended by hundreds of people from different villages, also from people coming from Hasaki city. We couple of times we were also it was recorded and aired on TV. It was the Syrian national TV. That was, and I got to interview them too, to tell them how was the experience.
Fantastic.
So it was amazing, and that
this was every summer.
That was every single summer.
Wow.
So till I was I think 12, 13, I contributed to so many of the acts and the ceremony itself. And we were always looking forward when we get young, so we can participate in organizing this for the younger generation. So it was always a dream to be part in a role of our teachers, so one day we can grow and give back to the village and to our people and the school itself. So it was really great to be able to be part of that, and shaped a lot of who I am today, and my love to actually serve the community. And so I would never forget all the opportunity I got. Also, sometimes we had people visiting the village. We could show them around, and the beautiful gardens, and it was such a heaven to us. Also, it was really well known for the original Truma wine, or the Assyrian wine. So yeah.
Fantastic. Wow, I can just picture it from how you're describing it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a bit more generally about the Assyrian community there?
As I said, there were over 35 villages on the river of Khabur, and we call them also camps. There were for people who fled the massacres in Iraq in 1933, and they were set there by the French mandate. to so many of, like, my grandmother would tell me all the stories how they came there, and so many of the older generation who fled the massacres and genocides in Iraq. But more like of the younger generations who were raised and born in Khabur, they were also always hope that they can turn it from a desert into a heaven called an Assyrian land. And it was like we had so many of successful individuals who were always trying. It was really hard in that area, in Gazarta or like Hasaki region. We didn't have any universities, anything, but the families had the courage to send their children, for example, to Aleppo University or to Damascus University. We had quite a large number of people who were educated people who go to universities, like from these smaller villages, to be able to have, I think, over 300 graduates just from Aleppo University. That was great. Also, when we first celebrated the Khabnisan or the Assyrian New Year, Rish Shita Atureta, it's great when all, like, people from different villages, they don't celebrate in their own village. We all go to Tunaicha, to Abdulaziz Mountain, where...
I was going to ask, how do you pick out of 35 villages? But there you go, there is a sort of central location.
Yes, all the time we go there. Like, everyone knows on the 1st of April we are going to Abdulaziz Mountain. So that was organized by mostly the Assyrian Democratic Party, but also there were other organizations like the Assyrian Democratic Movement. They sometimes organized in partnership, like together. For all the Assyrian people, they come. There were like Khushaba group who would perform some of the Assyrian dances and Assyrian music and culture. So it was really great representation of their identity, their culture. And it was good that they had, before the war, of course, all these things were permitted for us as Assyrians. To be able to preserve your culture was really something special. So I think we had, even, it was not just for Assyrians. You can find other groups like Arabs and sometimes like other cultural groups who live with us there, trying to contribute and attend. It was something special to have.
And in terms of, so just before leaving in 2016, how had things changed by then?
So for me, actually, we moved to Al-Hasaki city because we wanted to major in a scientific section. So that was a story for many families, because in my village and many Assyrian villages, we didn't have schools that has like the scientific section or the subjects. But we always kind of find excuses every summer to go back there to the villages. And I started my university study there, same as so many Syrian families. However, when the war started, my university was attacked a couple times. We were asked to, for example, when we take public transport to go to university, you can't sit next to your male friend. It has to be section for women or like girls and one for guys or like for boys. So it was segregated. It was really, we tried to withstand it for like my first year, second year of university, but then it get really hard. Like once we were in the exam, they're trying to add, university with booms and stuff. So it was really hard to stay there. Also, in the 23rd of February 2015, the Syrian villages were attacked by ISIS. And before that, we had it was Hasaki region was under the Kurdish militias, which was really hard. It's different when it's like it was under the regime's control. There you had more safety, regions were more protected, but now there were different parties trying to control some areas, and the Syrian nation fall victims of that, because we were not like armed forces. We didn't have any armed forces, anything to protect ourselves. And with these groups, no one would care about your safety as a minority group and as indigenous people of that area. So there is not all this cultural respect to who you are. They'd say that maybe on media, on other places, but no one would really did care about the safety of our Assyrian people. They were united in destroying our culture and our religious organizations and cultural organizations, but they were never like united with us to actually support our safety and our existence in that area. So it was really such a shame, to fall under this control of these militias. Either it was like the Islamic State or the Kurdish militias, and to so many Assyrian community and people, they definitely we can share many peaceful stories before the war, but after the war it is really sad, all the stories.
And what's your understanding of what it's like there today?
Today we have, it's not all the villages are, most of them are empty, but there is still hope there that few families, sometimes just like one person is living in the whole village. Before that you'd have like thousands of people there. Now it's just one person. So I think these people are giving us so much hope that we are not leaving this country, like the country or our land, till like if they'll kill us, we're not leaving here. So we are staying, and you will find so many youth initiatives there. You have the Syrian Elderly Center led by like the Syrian organizations there. You have the Assyrian Police or Natore. You have a great representation of Assyrian Democratic Party in Tel Tammar, organizing still like different Assyrian national days with the church there. It is, I think, these are Assyrian heroes, every single person who withstood all the things that are happening and just looking, and they were born there, but seeing the Khabur in the current situation and still trying to actually be there, work there, and preserve and revive Assyrian identity and culture through various Assyrian programs. It is something we all so proud of, and that's what gives us power here in Australia, and I believe other places in the world. For me, like to see my people having all that hope. So for me, having the freedom here and the democratic society, I believe we can do more things better, and we can work to help our people in our homeland, and also help the Syrian people who arrived into Australia in various and different ways, and so they never lose hope, because we are finding so many people now are being not that well engaged with our Assyrian organizations. There is a fear always, and that's what is the result of living genocides. And my grandmother always shared to us stories of like how she was afraid for my dad, my uncles to be like part of any like Assyrian political parties. She would get scared like nothing would happen to them, they are safe, and like so trying to not encourage them to be part of these initiatives. But my dad actually didn't listen to her. She was
looking at you. Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, so it's the same thing. I think it's happening with our people here in Australia and so many places, but we don't want them to be scared just because of what happened, to not engage in organizations and try to change the situation to something more like beautiful, more inspiring, and
You spoke about being able to live here and help out back in the homeland. How do you go about doing that?
One of the reasons why I volunteered with the Assyrian Australian Social Development Club was when I was in Syria. They helped a lot so many Assyrian families, and especially the ones who fled to other cities like Latakia and Tartus, and to help the students who were forced to flee their universities in Hasaki city, and were living in different cities, to help them with different programs to support the organizations like Ashur Foundation for Relief and Development. So I saw how much it gave these students, because sometimes they even couldn't provide the living expenses and stuff like that. So just that as an organization to think about that was so powerful. And we still connect with some of the families who live there, and of course it can't be like, you can't be helping single-handedly, so you have to be in connection with other organizations, Assyrian organizations who are already there. So we always like contact them on what are the programs they are organizing, what are the needs of the Assyrian community there. And yeah, I think they are well organized over there, and they always advise on what are the needs they have. And it's not just like us as an organization. There are so many Assyrian organizations who are helping too, to try like keep the community there alive, and try to not limit their potentials, and try to, like, as much as we can, individuals and organizations, to help them and support whatever their ideas and their programs.
So you touched on the Osher Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You worked as a community development worker with them.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about the organisation and what was involved with your role?
So I joined the organization after finishing my college, like after year 12. I joined voluntarily with them, with a group of young Assyrians. However, the organization was founded after the war in Syria, and just mainly to help with like the crisis there after the war, helping many people in providing them medications, sometimes with food, and people who were like NDPs who fled the after like Khabur, like so many people, like after the war in Syria, but mainly after 23rd of February 2015. We worked on different initiatives with the youth group. For example, creating what was called the first like Assyrian journal there, just was organized by Assyrian youth. It was called Ilyama. So when we asked many Assyrian youth who would write in that kind of like magazine or journal, and it was in Arabic first, then we translated it into Assyrian. That was all done by us. So it was kind of a way that we support and encourage writing and reading and speaking the Assyrian language, because so many of the it was only the Assyrian Church of the East that was supporting the kind of Assyrian school, but other like in my village, for example, and other Khabur villages, they couldn't do that. So for the people who are living there, so we encouraged that as a way to actually still preserve our heritage, our language, and culture.
Getting youth involved
Yes,
as well.
and we organized. It was the first Assyrian Martyrs Day in collaboration with the Assyrian Democratic Organization and the church. We invited representatives from the like Hasaki, different organizations, not only Assyrians, to tell them about the ongoing massacres and genocides of the Assyrian nation, and other initiatives like we had to organize meetings and keep the Assyrian youth connected, like from Tel Tamar, from Qamishli, would invite them to attend our events, cultural events. Sometimes we would organize days like, as I said, Assyrian Martyrs Day, Assyrian New Year, and also to encourage youth to meet each other. And we also supported some educational courses, like where you build leadership in youth. So we invited Assyrian professionals to actually give them some courses and develop some of their skills. Depends on the needs, like what was needed at that time. And in 2014, I had to leave to Latakia, or like Latakia city, to complete my university studies. However, 1 year later, the Khabur was attacked by ISIS, so I felt like there is a need that I need to come back to my city. So when we left, it was with my mother, my uncle's family, and my sisters. Dad was there, but I felt I need to come back and see how is the situation like. I was literally like shocked by what I saw in the Assyrian Church of the East, St. Marie's Church in Hasake, where we had hundreds of Assyrian families. there who had all these houses, their houses destroyed, their churches, and who had over 260 from their immediate family members who were kidnapped with the Islamic State. And it was, I didn't feel this, but it was heartbreaking for me. Just we need to show some power to them, like support them morally and in every possible way.
How old are you at this stage when you've decided you need to leave
university? I was I think in my 19, 20. My mom didn't really support me to take the decision because my dad was already there, and he was also a volunteer with the organization and member of the Syrian Democratic Party, but she was already so like fear for him and for his life there. But something could happen to me, it would be the same thing to my Assyrian people there and the Syrian community. So I am not better than them in any way. So I had really tough conversation with her that day to just trying to convince her that she can let me go. And so we went to the booking, like to book the air flights. There were not any bookings. Like in the next few days, I wanted to go as soon as possible. I booked for like in 2 weeks from that time, and but I asked my uncle to drive me to the airport because even if it wasn't that day, I wanted to go anyway. So I really struggled to find a place. So I went into the airport. Asking one of the officers, I really need to go to Hasake, and they let me go. I went like half of the way standing on the flight and the other half just sharing 3 seats like between 4 people. It was really, when I arrived there, called my auntie who was living in Qamishli. I was like, I am here, and she was like, you really crazy girl, who would come at this situation and all that. But if I didn't do that, took that action back then, I would be really so like disappointed all my life that I couldn't do anything. Just being, of course, I wasn't like just my volunteer role with the organization and my dad who was there helping, and the situation itself there, I felt I'm no way just sitting here doing my own things just because I'm safe and not care about my people. So I felt, no, I actually need to be there. The church needs us. Our Assyrian organizations needs us. Our community needs us there. They are in everyone who could come. And I even told my friends, if anyone can come from any city, it's the time to be there. So it's the time we can help. So we were in contact with United Nations representatives who were there, with some of the Assyrian GPs who directly were in contact with some of the really extreme situations where people were in really bad torture or like mental health situations. Yeah, so we helped with providing the essentials for them while they were staying in the church, like from food, medications, but also the other support for the children and women who were there. We contacted Mar Apram Athniel, so we can organize something for the children and for the women, and it had to be constantly. The women are and the families are really bad situation now, and we needed something, some fun activities, and with the help of the GPs there to just bring the smiles to their faces again. I can always like go back, look at some of the photos and of the program, and feel really powerful, like how after the crisis they left, and to just be able to smile again and draw that smile on their faces. I was really proud when I went home. My mom just saw what I was able to achieve in that short time with, of course, like really incredible young people. I would not name any of them now because there were so many of them, so I don't want to forget any of these young persons, but they know who I'm talking about, and they know how proud I am of them today. So many of them achieving really great things now and being so true to our identity and to our culture, and being there at the toughest times. And so we were all really successful and happy about what we've achieved. And of course, it was a short time that so many of these families stayed in Hasake, because even it was really tough situation there. And they were in Qamishli as well. We had people, they stayed for a couple of weeks, then all of them had to flee to Lebanon and apply for different, the Australian embassies there, to European countries, to the US, Canada. So just try to anyway just to leave.
You said some of the strongest memories you have is these young children. Have you had a chance to be reunited with many of them here in Australia?
Oh yeah, definitely. They and that was my aim from the start. So I wanted to meet with them. Some of them, they would talk to me about their friends who are kidnapped with the Islamic State. So there was one girl who was really attached to one of her close friends. So of course they are here now. Some of them I work closely with them on different projects, which is also great. I want to be close to them as much as possible and just witness all their story from the start. And of course before what happened to Khabur, I didn't know any of them. But when I went back to the church and met so many of them, organized these events, and saw how powerful they are, how much of a support they were to their families. But when in private, when we had our own youth conversations, they would sometimes, we would cry to each other about and talk about their friends who were still with ISIS. Some of them really young ages, 6, 7 years, really kids. But I always made sure every day I had a conversation with one of them. We would go every day to the church for the evening prayers with Mara Premathniel. We would all together pray for them so they are safe. And when I came to Australia, now meeting with them all, so it'd be one of them, she was, now she's 12. And I told her the first time, well, I don't know you, but of course from the conversation I had with your friends, and we would all the time talk about you and pray for you that you are safe. And back then I saw photos of, she was really godlike in drawing. So when we came here, she showed me some of the hair drawings and some of the works she did while she was kidnapped with ISIS, and the stories she wrote, and some of the prayers she wrote as well with her mother. And it was really great to see all this and now work closely with them at the Assyrian Australian Social Development Club. They also are leaders now in our community, creating what is called the first Assyrian dance group here, which I am proud to support. First, when I was working with one of the community organizations with Spectrum, they had their first dance performance. The organization was a little bit concerned when I had the discussion with them. This is a newly established group. They were concerned, okay, how well they perform, how good is the group and all that. And then they were surprised by the outcomes. Just after that, which was called the Assyrian Cohesion Festival, they had 3 more offers from different Australian community organizations who were trying to actually invite them to different activities, because they saw how good they are at this younger age, to have that love for their culture and performing great Assyrian dances. It was really great work that they did. And
And is this the same group that earlier this year participated in the Greek festival?
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about that? Because that is just fascinating.
Yeah, so that was actually, I got a phone call from one of the committee members at the Assyrian Art and Literature Foundation. He knew about the group, the youth group, and he was, I got a phone call from one of the organizers of the Greek festival, One Still Street Greek Festival. We want to have mutual performance between the Assyrians, Greeks and Armenians to highlight on the genocides of the 3 groups that we have as Assyrians, Greeks and Armenians. And it was really powerful. When I called the team, I was ask about their opinion. What do you think if you'll be able to perform. I can't really describe it. It was amazing, the feeling. I was behind them on the stage, just looking at like thousands who'd gathered in the city of Melbourne.
It's one of the biggest festivals in
yes,
Melbourne.
Yes, like in some of these young people haven't even been in Australia for a few years, like 1-2 years, and being able to perform there for them, it meant so much. And just seeing people, how they interacted with them and supporting them after the performance, it was really great. Of course, we would never be able to do that if not of like the help of the Arcades Australia, who invited us. So, and what I liked more about that, it was not like we performed like in so many events, you'd go perform, just come home, prepare for something else. The team was so great, adopting so many of the ideas the team had. They loved their members. Actually, they were really welcoming, and we had even bigger plans to organize something else in partnership with these 3 groups. We were invited after that for the Armenian Azerbaijan dance group in their like 25th anniversary, and we went there and shared some of the Syrian music, danced on the Armenian music, and building this relationship between our youth and their community, and trying to, because when we are coming newly to Australia, it's really hard for so many people to have that feeling of belonging. But when you have a community that is supporting you, when you have friends, when you have that safe environment, when you can preserve your culture and show your identity to the diverse communities of Victoria, it is really powerful, and it meant so much for these young people. At some stage of their life, they had no hope that they would survive one day, but now the level they reached, and it's really great to see them contributing in this perfect way to Australia as to Australia's community, to Victoria particularly, but also it is something that will make us all very proud as Assyrians, and we had really successful young people like them.
So is there plans to do more in conjunction with the Armenian and Greek communities?
Yes, we always have like plans that we can organize things together, have that really close relationship to each other between our youth, trying to organize events in partnership, because so many of their youth, they were even born here or have been in Australia for so long. So it's always an opportunity for us to learn from their experience and try to showcase our Assyrian culture through their wide and very harmonious platforms. It's not the first time they're organizing this. They have organized larger events with even many community groups, and they always try to maintain that close connections between their members and the new cultural groups they work with. So it is kind of what we are looking for in our organization, try to always maintain good relationships with other organizations and share their Syrian stories with on different platforms. And that was such a dream of the organization and the group. Well, we never thought that we would actually be able to achieve this in such a short time, to be able to showcase our Assyrian dances and identity and culture in front of thousands in the city of Melbourne. So yeah, one of great things. And
it's really hard to think of a time in Melbourne where we have, as Assyrians, been able to put ourselves on such a significant platform. So it's fantastic, and it sounds like there's a lot to come as well.
Yeah.
Coming to Australia, you've decided to continue studying civil engineering. Mm-hmm. That's what you were studying back in
Yes,
Syria?
I after a year graduating from year 12, as I said before, I have always passion in and I was good at some of the science subjects, maths, physics. My mother was a mathematics teacher, and my dad has his own construction company, so he was a contractor and has the practical experience. Mom more of the theory and the knowledge behind that. So I was always supported to do the engineering subject. So my options were after graduating from year 12, I had a good GPA, and I felt like all my preferences were in engineering. So I got an offer from Aleppo University to study Bachelor's of Aviation. But at that time, it was the start of the Syrian war. So my family felt it's really dangerous now to send you to Aleppo, and I didn't feel like safe going by myself during that time. So I went for my second preference, which was the Bachelor of Civil Engineering. And it was good that in the Hasaki region they were constructing new universities. My university was just established in 2008. It was impacting in so many ways the life of Assyrians, but other community groups who were feared to send their children, mostly like other cultural groups. They didn't send their children to, for example, Aleppo or Damascus universities. When they had these universities in Hasaki and Deir ez-Zor in other northeastern cities, it was great that you can see so many females, not just in engineering, but in other places, in other university courses, just educating themselves, empowering themselves. But to me, like when I started, I did just 2 years in Al Furat University, where it was in Hasaki. And then, as I said, the war was impacting my city really hugely.
So you had a pause on it. Yeah. And then you've come here and decided to continue. Can you tell me a bit about how studying here would compare to the few years you did back in Syria?
I can't even compare. It's really two different things. So in Syria, we would more focus on the theory or with lacking in the practical aspects of it. Even labs during the war, they would not providing us with proper labs where you can test materials in particular subjects and learn the practical sides of things. Also, there were so much marks on the final exam, and that would decide how good you are at some subjects. While in Australia, when I came, I did a course, of course, for English, because my English wasn't that good, but also to learn the key things in how to learn, because I thought studying was everything, but there are two different things. We were studying in Syria, but here there is more, so it's more work on learning, how to learn new things, how to search for in different topics, and not limit one subject. It's not just a knowledge of one book or two books. It's always the knowledge is always there. And so we worked so much on some research programs here, on practical things in labs where we could test materials and the performance on objects, and also the opportunity we have as females to work as engineers, because in Syria you would find so many people female students doing engineering courses, but no one would end up in, for example, a construction site where you practice all your university studies. Most of them, they would be just in offices, and most of the time not doing the actual engineering design work or solving problems. It would be more of an admission work they give them. So it is really interesting where in Australia they are trying to apply more diversity in the workplace, and also trying to engage more women in the workforce and the STEAM subjects as well. So it is not a joke, your university degree. There is platforms that are work environments that after that you can work and practice your knowledge, and so it's really interesting.
So you mentioned the Assyrian Australian Social Development Club. Can you tell me more about how you got involved with that when you came to Australia, and what impact that's had on your life here?
So I was a few months in Australia when I actually engaged one of the committee members, and she was really involved with the club, and but they had really a small committee back then, just I think 7 of the co-founders with few other members. I volunteered for some time, and then I was able to join the committee as I was the first young face to be able to be part of their committee. Before that, they had more focus on helping our people. So the organization was actually established in December 2012. So their focus was to help our Assyrian community in Syria. And when after 2015, most of the people who arrived to Australia, so we tried to focus more on the Assyrian community who are living in Australia, try to provide them with different programs. We had the first youth committee, subcommittee, and also women's committees where we worked closely with women, organizing what is called the Syrian art workshops. Also, we had some Let's Talk Money financial counseling, where I had to do a course with, I was selected to do a course with one of the organizations and then deliver the program in Assyrian through a few workshops for the organization. Also in the youth area, we had to work with youth groups. We created we supported the Assyrian dance group, which was created by few Assyrian youth, and work with them and support them to perform in different platforms, different events. Also, we are active in organizing some of the Assyrian national days, and that was in partnership with different Assyrian organizations who have been working in that field for so many years here, trying to organize these 2 days for Assyrians in Melbourne. And we as an organization, we feel really welcome by these people and me personally when they invite me and to one of their meetings. And from there, I met really inspiring Assyrian leaders who has been in Australia for so long and trying to serve the community and preserve the Assyrian culture in different ways. As an organization, I'm proud actually to be a part of a really great team who introduced something new to the Victorian Assyrian community here. And if it was through the what we call the Assyrian graduation ceremony, where we focused on supporting young graduates, most of them coming newly to Australia, and how they're taking the education as their way and try not to give up because of sometimes because we have even difficulties in qualifying our certificates here. So it was really good that they focused on studying in and also a special program which was the diploma in Assyrian interpreting. So we had so many graduates from that program. We wanted to highlight the achievements of Assyrian young people who were doing some great educational successes, and try to support them as an organization, tell them that we are behind you. And
And last year was the first time this
that
happened?
was the first time that was happened, and the organization is looking for ways that keep the program going, because it is something new to our community here. And through that, we also introduced what was called the Assyrian Young People's Theatre, where they performed a drama or an act on how they came as young people to Australia, having the experience they lived of the from war-torn country to come into Australia, and still their focus to be their education and different ways and different pathways they can take to revive the Assyrian identity here. So I think it's different approaches we are taking, me personally and the team and the organization, in first trying to engage so many young people in the organization and make them future leaders, occupy them with different tools so they can take over all the work in the organization does, and stay always close to other Assyrian organizations here, try to maintain really good partnerships and relationships with them, and also the Assyrian church we have here. So we always go and meet with the church leaders, update them on the work we do, take their advice, and also focusing on having women's representation in the committee, which is something that really made me feel safe to be part of this, because you will see in so many organizations we have, there is no much support for women to come and raise their voices, step up and be in that position. And the same thing for our youth. So when they have any idea, or they just give their ideas, but from inside they don't feel that actually these ideas would be applied one day, or because the organization don't make our youth feel like welcome so they can participate. So myself, from the first day I was engaged, I made sure that we can invite other young people to be part of the committee and also part of leading the organization, having their own subcommittee where, of course, we can advise them on some issues, but having their voices heard, and also in the for women to have their own programs where they can share their stories, their needs. And I think we've been, of course, as the organization, always we seek help from different places, different Syrian community members, because alone we can't do anything. So we seek the help from the community to stay behind us and support us in everything we do.
You've got a very long list of voluntary commitments. Makes me tired just thinking about it. To add to this, you're also a member of the Multicultural Youth Network for the Victorian Multicultural Commission. How did this come about?
I was involved with the Victorian Multicultural Commission on different programs. I met with the chairperson once when I was talking about some of the needs for the Assyrian community here in Victoria at one of the events that they have organized. And I read more about the organization and their involvements in the multicultural space, and it was one of the areas that I really wanted to work in and represent my community, not only among the Assyrian members, but I wanted our voice to be heard to the government and to other platforms where so many Victorian multicultural communities go to tell about their rich cultures, religious and different cultural backgrounds. So I felt us as Assyrians, we need to have representation in that organization, even if it was minor through just volunteering with the youth body, which was the Multicultural Youth Network. But it gives me so much confidence on how to approach the government on different needs of the newly arrived Syrian issues, on ways that we can make safer environments for people from different cultures. They can come and freely preserve their culture with no fear that they wouldn't be accepted, feeling that they are belonging to community. Personally, it made me so proud of actually the community we are living in, and also it opens so much opportunities. And I always made sure that this was not only for me, not for my individual needs, but always was about the needs of the Assyrian youth people. So once at one of the events, which was the gala dinner, where we met with different representatives from different Victorian organizations and Australian organizations, I got to meet with the governor of Victoria. And she invited me to the government house to talk more about the needs of the Assyrian youth and the newly arrived Assyrian community. I asked to not be invited alone to the government house, so I was like, can we actually come as we have an Assyrian group at the Assyrian Australian Social Development Club, so is it possible to have the team with me attending that meeting? She, of course, that was with the help of Helen Kapelos, who was the chairperson of the VMC back then, and so with the help of the VMC and the government house, we had to organize this tour where we met with Her Excellency, the Honourable Linda Disu, and her spouse, Judge Anthony Howard, where they took us a tour at the government house, where we met with them, learned about some of the governors' roles, and I wanted to open that conversations with these higher leadership representatives of the state and our youth, to actually have these conversations with them, not fear, because sometimes they would never get this opportunity in our countries. It's there is so much gap between government representatives and community organizations and minority groups like us as Assyrians. But I wanted youth to have that leadership, role and just go there, tell their stories. And it was so inspiring for them to hear from us, all of us being newly to Australia, and hear about the things we are doing here. Also learning about what they do in supporting newly arrived communities in Australia. It was amazing, and the area their areas of work with young people, it was really incredible. So I was really proud of this and proud of our Assyrian young people who were able to represent the community on this in perfect way, in this high level. And so
that's amazing. Yeah. Wow, I didn't realize that you'd actually had a chance to meet the Governor of Victoria.
Yes, that was such a great pleasure to be able to meet her. Also, we were once part of only 2 Assyrian females, myself and another one from the church, the Chaldean church, where we met with Prince Harry when they came to Australia. And so there was I think 300.
Just a casual name drop, Prince Harry.
That was with the VMC again, the Multicultural Youth Network. We got the chance to talk about the things we do in the community with the diverse and the mosaic Victorian society, our areas of work. So it was great to get the chance, and for me, to be the only Assyrian with, of course, 2 Assyrian females to represent the community there was really incredibly make me feel really proud. And so
you are involved in a lot of things. I want to know about what drives you, what motivates you.
I think my story, as I shared my childhood, so many of the promises that I made I wasn't able to do to my community just because the war in Syria. My dreams of growing up one day in Trouma village and being able to, as I was given the opportunity of studying and learning Assyrian, to grow up one day and teach Assyrian students, the next generation, about our language and culture. So I didn't get the chance to do that, but I always would make sure that I actually, so my own success is not of what I do to myself, but what I do to my nation. I can be one day a very successful female engineer. That's my area of work. That's what I want to be, but that's a personal goal. So who is Kinda, or what Kinda does, it's what I'm going to be achieving for my people. And I think that's what should be the aim of every Assyrian in their free time, when they are available, just to try volunteer with their community. Because it's not about us, about who I am, about what I do. It is so important. I would be, of course, supporting every Assyrian to be as successful as possible. That's what we as a community want from any Assyrian, but not share this as that's always an individual thing that should be kept in private. I think for me, that's what I always do. Maybe I'm doing really good in my studies, in my area of work in engineering, but I would never share this or be that much proud of it. But it depends how much I do to my community. If I made one Assyrian child learn Assyrian word living, because in Australia it's really hard to do that, or helping an Assyrian family to still preserve their culture in a new country, that would make me more happy. Or seeing women taking leadership roles and giving them opportunities to lead the community here, that is my area of interest as well. So because so many people who are born here, they wouldn't understand the full story, or they can't much relate to it. But for me, it is a blessing to be born in a village like Trouma, and I have lost family members and friends just because of who they are as Assyrians, and that was kind of another living genocide, and only had to hear it from my grandmother, but also to live it and to witness all that. So that what always drives me, the people who give their lives to our community, and there is nothing that can compare my work or anything that I can do to these people who, give the most precious thing in their life, which was, their soul just for their nation. So I think that is always a powerful thing for me. It's always like driving me to achieve better things, and there is never enough work to be done. Every time, whatever we do, there is always more we can give. Till just the thought of like people who gave their souls to our nation. So you can imagine how much we are not doing enough, how much work needs to be done from us as younger generation. And I always have hope. Sometimes I listen to conversations for people who actually have lost hope in what the Syrian nation can do, because I lived with my grandmother and so many Assyrian people who fled Iraq, came to Khabur, and how they actually believed in their children that they can be successful one day. They will achieve something. They turned Khabur from a desert to a heaven, and had successful Assyrian sons and daughters. And I feel we are in the same situation now, but in a better actually situation. We came to Australia. It is a perfect place to live for groups like us. We have every single chance to actually revive our identity again, and the Australian people are really helping in that way. But it like just depends on us, and if we want to achieve that. So we've got everything. We just need to work on ourselves, and it is a huge responsibility the young Assyrian people have. It is a huge responsibility on us. It is not an easy task, of course, especially for people like myself who are coming. You don't know where to focus more. I was one of the very few examples who were able to achieve that balance in being able to focus on my personal life, try to continue my studies, and be close as much as possible to my family and my community, but also in the community area, give back to my community and be largely involved. I'll be honest with you, maybe I give up on, didn't give much time sometimes to friends, and which was sometimes a bad thing, but I think it was worth it. It was worth it that I can focus more on some other projects that are more meaningful, and get to meet new people, new friends, and from there, and it is challenging sometimes.
What's next for you?
Now, I think, of course, so many projects with the club, with the Assyrian Australian Social Development Club. But one thing I want to achieve from the very first day when I arrived to Australia, coming to RMIT University, I saw so many clubs who were supporting different cultural groups and different students, supporting students in so many ways. I wanted actually to have, now we are working on what is called the first Assyrian Student Association at RMIT. So we are working with the committee there to actually recognize and fully affiliate the club, so we can start working with Assyrian students through RMIT University. And my work would be to help other students who are in other unis like Melbourne University, Swinburne, Latrobe. I still need to do the research if we have enough members there. But at RMIT now we are able to secure more than have the memberships of more than 20 members, which is really great. We can it is great to have. It's, I think, during the life of the Assyrian people in Victoria, which is over, I think, 30 years, we never had any Assyrian student association at Australian University. I think that would have do so much work in so many areas if it's supporting Assyrian students. Also, we'll try to invite them to some of the work we do as different Assyrian organizations, but the graduation ceremony we do, so that would connect more people together, and of course preserve the Assyrian culture there, and introduce the Australian people some of the Assyrian food and music, dance, and but mainly, of course, working to support Assyrian students. We are working hard to get it done as soon as possible, and so we can start working. Yeah,
it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Kinda, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on the Assyrian podcast.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you for the program. I had really, I'm humbled to be with you and on the program.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, help us out by sharing it on social media or telling someone about it. We appreciate all of your support for the Assyrian podcast. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.